For Sunday, October 11th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, we have, will DeKalb CEO Lee May resign? It's an AJC columnist Bill Torpy versus Atlanta Mayor Reed. And what's going on with the U.S. House Speaker, Lynn Westmoreland? Those and some other topics today on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
Good morning, I'm Phil Kent, sitting in for Dick Williams, and I want to welcome back attorney Meagan Hanson today. Good to have you.
Thank you.
And of course, Jeff Dickerson and Alexis Scott. We're starting off again with DeKalb County corruption. Isn't this the fourth week in a row, I think? But the big question now is CEO Lee May, the interim CEO, there's been a lot of calls for his resignation. There was actually a prominent Democrat, State Senator Emanuel Jones, says we can't have this image of corruption hovering over us. He called for the resignation. And Meagan, I'll turn to you. You were actually at a meeting in Brookhaven the other day. That's your neck of the woods. And it was billed as a Lee May town meeting, but Lee May didn't show up, but it still was held. What happened?
Well, actually, you know, what's really interesting is that Lee May won't come to North DeKalb to explain what's going on here, you know, with the corruption. The meeting was actually in Decatur, and Lee May was scheduled to come to the meeting. It was hosted by Commissioner Nancy Jester, and he didn't show up. And so there were over 100 citizens who were very passionate about the corruption and what's going on in their county, and they were questioning, like, where's Lee May? Why can't we ask him what's going on? So they were very passionate, very angry, and demanding answers.
Yeah, it was reported that he wanted to reschedule the meeting at the last minute, and he has, what, 5 or 6 others already on the docket to do that. And I heard that Nancy Jester said it was the Lee May Town Hall meeting without Lee May. Mm-hmm. So people are, you know, looking for some answers. And you said that people have called for his resignation. That was exactly what the report called for. That was done by the outside investigators, Mike Bowers, former state attorney general, that Lee May hired to look at the county. So it's just a real terrible situation. So I hope that somehow will be resolved. And it appears now that the GBI is going to look at the report and look at the charges and make some sort of recommendation to the governor. So
that's right, Jeff. She's right. The GBI is investigating, and I guess the big question now, Governor Deal earlier in the week indicated that he might get involved and indicated that he might work with attorney Sam Olens after this GBI report is done. Now, last week, Jeff, you said that Lee May has bungled this from the beginning. Is it worse than just bungling?
Well, you know, we've got a lot at stake in DeKalb County at this point. I don't think that there's any confidence on the north side of the county, any confidence on the south side of the county in the present leadership. And present leadership needs to take stock of that reality and make a decision about what they're going to do. There's a lot at stake. You know, you got that soccer deal that was out there that I understand now. I hear reports that, you know, they may want to pull out of DeKalb. You know, Egbert Perry has this huge development in Doraville, and he's trying to attract economic development and jobs to DeKalb County. In this environment, it is extremely difficult to do so. So if you are looking, what's in the best interest of the county? I think that that's the question that we all ought to be asking ourselves, including those who are in appointed or elective office in DeKalb County. What's in the best interest of the county? You know, is it your job, your position, or are you going to put the county and its citizens first?
And you know what's so sad is there was testimony last night of people who supported Lee May from the outset, saw him do all these wonderful things for the committee, and the county, and I don't know where that flip switched, you know, over, but all of a sudden, you know, it's like a whole new person. It's a whole new issue.
Yeah.
You know, and so you have an election next year. Yeah, you could install a new CEO elected by the people in 17. We got to remember that Governor Deal appointed Lee May to this position. He was not elected, and so it's a long time between now and an opportunity for stability and new credibility in DeKalb County. It's 14, 15 months. Do we have that much time, and still keep, you know, some semblance of vibrant, credible.
Well, you're making a good point.
Oh, I was going to say the other thing too with the governor, he could possibly replace him because he appointed him. I mean, he has to, I guess there has to be some charges brought, but that might even take a year or more.
Well, that's right.
If the investigation goes through, but
That's
there may
right,
be
and we
some
don't know what the
opportunity.
investigation will find if there is criminal charges.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what I'd like to see as a citizen. I'd like to see somebody like Michael Thurman, who can bring instant credibility and stability to the county, step into that role and do so.
So you're for Lee May resigning?
I think that we need new leadership, and I don't think we can wait until January 17th.
I agree with you.
Well, I think we all agree. In fact, as you know, on this program, I've been a huge Michael Thurman fan for years. He was a great superintendent. He was a great labor commissioner, and I think it's a great idea. I wanted to shift to another topic, and Alexis, I'm going to turn to you. There was a story this past week. It seems to be an ongoing story, a sad story of the King family and the divisions that are going on. And I saw where former President Jimmy Carter was called in to mediate the differences between the children. And, I guess it was probably easier for him to do the Egyptians and the Israelis back in 1979 in the King family.
Well,
How is this going to work?
I don't think so, but I think this is a very good development because, as you said, if anybody can help these siblings come together, it would be somebody like Jimmy Carter. And the dispute is around particularly this time, the dispute is around the Nobel Peace Prize and the Bible that Dr. King carried with him. And apparently, the two brothers want to sell the items, and the sister, Bernice King, who is the CEO of the King Center now, does not want them sold. She thinks they are sacred possessions that should be held by the family and by the center. And so they're trying to resolve this dispute, and hopefully they will. And as I said, they both issued statements, or I didn't say that, but both sides issued statements saying that they were encouraged by this development. So I hope they can resolve it.
Jeff, what do you think? Do you think there'll be a resolution?
Yeah, yes, and I think that the former president can make that happen. As you pointed out, he's mediated some pretty major disputes, and hopefully
This could be the
we'll
toughest
able to
yet.
mediate this one as well.
Yeah, family is always an issue sometimes.
Family as well, and
It's
you
more
have
sensitive.
emotions involved and things of that sort. So it's more than just business.
And didn't you suggest, Alexis, at one time, I thought it was a good idea, that maybe some of these items could be donated?
Well, I mean, they could be kept at the King Center. I mean, they don't need to be donated because they already have a place to display them. But some people have suggested that maybe a place to donate them would be the Center for Civil and Human Rights. However, they don't necessarily collect items.
Okay,
but
I wondered
the
about
rest of the King collection that they do display is housed at Morehouse College and is owned by Morehouse College as a result of the fundraising that was done to buy them.
I
So
got
maybe
you.
some other similar thing could happen.
I want to touch very quickly on a feud that occurred over this last week, and it had to do with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution columnist Bill Torpy and Atlanta Mayor Reed. And it bothered me, and it should bother everybody. We're all for the First Amendment. My goodness, we all air opinions here on this show all the time. And the mayor didn't like Bill Torpy airing opinions. What it was, just for our viewers, is this columnist wanted to interview 3 firefighters who had pulled out 3 children and saved them from a fire. A great good news story. You would think the mayor would want something for the city, but no, he's involved with a feud, a lawsuit with the firefighters along with the
Lawsuit is a
police.
little bit more than a feud.
It is. It's a major thing. But was the mayor right or wrong to just shut him down and attack him, verbally said he was a terrible writer?
Well, I think that happens all the time, the people who are being written about and feud with the people who are writing about them. So that's nothing new in that.
But he refused to allow them to be interviewed by Torpy.
Well, that's within the mayor's prerogative to
Right or wrong, though? You wouldn't have done that if you were mayor.
Well, I think, I don't know. I know. I do think that, this mayor has a way about him.
Yeah.
That he
Very sassy.
Well, what do
way.
you think?
I
What do you
mean,
think,
I
Meagan?
see him block people on Twitter all the time. It amazes me how one can have such an emotional response. I mean, I would understand if it were an issue of damage control, but this does not seem to be that way.
But the big issue is about the pension reform that the firefighters and the public safety officials participated
You're
in
right, but
and
shouldn't that be a
supported.
separate
and
issue?
now they're turning around and suing the mayor. So
Well,
there is
it seems
a
like
disagreement.
it
It's a
seems
bigger issue.
on the one hand, you ought to be able, if you're Bill, you ought to be able to interview heroes, right? And on the other hand, the mayor ought to be able to get the point across, and everybody ought to be able to get the point across, that tens of millions of dollars have been saved for Atlanta taxpayers through pension reform. It was just something that we absolutely had to do. This city was going to go bankrupt on its current
Okay, you get the
course.
last word
And
then.
now you got a $155 million surplus. That's
But
a
those
pretty
are
good
two
thing.
different stories. That's a hero story and a pension story, and I don't see why one begets the other.
The mayor needs to have some anger management control. Anyhow, when we come back, we're going to tackle some more state and local issues. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Welcome back to the Georgia Gang. I'm Phil Kent, sitting in for Dick Williams, and we hope he has a speedy medical recovery and we'll be back on the show next week or the week after. Let's turn to some more state and local politics. Let's go over to Cobb County and one of our favorite topics here on the Gang, and that is
The bridge
the
across-
new Braves Stadium, assuming anyone will go since they had such a lousy season. But anyhow, we still have some time to have them rebuild. But let's go back to that bridge that we always have talked about from the Galleria that's supposed to span the interstate, that's supposed to connect to the stadium. And Alexis, we were out there a couple months ago. We did the tour. Tim Lee assured us that it would only be $9 million of taxpayer money, and then we saw the report this past week that, oh, whoops, wait a minute.
Maybe a little bit
It's
more.
going to be more. Of course, we all predicted this. We all looked
Certainly
in our
Dick
crystal
did.
ball. We were all right, if we could say that. But Alexis, what do you think?
Well, I think it remains to be seen what and how they're going to do this, because it's such a, I shouldn't say this, but it looks like such a preposterous thing to do in the first place, because this is a long span to go from the Galleria over, 8 lanes
That's right.
of freeway into the SunTrust Plaza Park. It doesn't really go directly to the stadium. And it's supposed to have pedestrian as well as vehicle access for what they call a circular, which will not, you can't drive the car over there, but you can take a bus, a shuttle bus, to get over to SunTrust Plaza. So it remains to be seen whether they can pull it off.
It's an ambitious project. Now, Tim Lee, the commission chairman, is claiming that it still will only be $9 million of taxpayer money, and other people will pay for the rest of it, including you have to reinforce that parking deck
At the Galleria.
At the Galleria.
And the Galleria is not real happy about giving up those parking places.
That's
to,
right.
to,
And they're still in
establish it.
negotiations. Jeff, is this just a pie in the sky project?
Absolutely not. I mean, you've got to do it in order to move people in that area. Maybe it'll cost taxpayers $9 million. Maybe it'll cost them $15 million. Either way, they're going to get it done.
Well, it is needed. It is needed because of the traffic problem,
yes, and
Meagan.
I'm hopeful it will be successful, and I'm hopeful that we can, keep it at the promised $9 million ticket, price. But it's dangerous to set a cap and give a number like that and say it'll never go over X. And then, of course, with construction projects, things happen,
usually
and it's just. Yeah, you have to be careful when dealing with public money.
Well, that's exactly right. There was another news story around the state. Over a dozen sheriff's departments now have started a campaign, and it's caught on in other parts of the country, to put a sticker on their cars, "In God We Trust." And I think it's a great campaign. After all, it's our national motto. What's the harm? I see a few atheists and a few liberals whining as usual, but what's the harm, Alexis?
Well, what is the harm? The harm is giving the inference that they're mixing church and state, and that is not supposed to happen in our democracy. We're supposed to
But
have
in
the
our
two.
Declaration of Independence, it says our rights come from our Creator, not the state that you love.
Well, that's good, but you don't. It also says in the Constitution that we're going to have a separate place for both, and not mix
That has
it to-
been so distorted. Well, Jeff, what do you think? I know
that
you agree
some
with
of-
me, right?
Some of the folks getting stopped by the police these days want to trust in God, and they hope that the police will do the same. Yeah, it's on a dollar bill. Isn't it on the dollar
It's on
bill?
your coinage.
I'm hoping that I've got
Yeah.
at least one in my pocket. I don't have an objection
It's on all the
to it being
monuments in
there.
Washington.
No, I don't have a problem with it either. And what I will say
Well,
is
you,
that
do you
the
want to
most
use taxpayers' money to pay for it?
the most liberal district, federal court district that we have in this country, the 9th district, which covers California, and over in that area, has upheld that there is no problem, that this phrase is patriotic or ceremonial in nature, and so it's not some sort of government sponsorship of religion. And that may be their interpretation. Like I said, they are the most liberal district, but it's been upheld, and that's the bottom line.
Well, and by the way, no taxpayer money is involved in the state of Georgia. I don't know about elsewhere.
Yeah, the wall of separation, I don't think means that you can't acknowledge the existence of God or the existence of religion.
Thank you.
We need to be able to make that distinction.
That was the right answer.
But for those who do not believe, then what does it mean?
Then they don't have to have it on their
Well,
card.
and so I'm saying that's why it shouldn't be done with taxpayer money.
They don't have to handle dollar bills or coins if they don't want to either.
Well, they could everybody uses a card now, so they can just swipe it. It's not on the
All right,
card.
Alexis, you get the final say on that one. When we return, we are going to talk, guess what? Politics. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Welcome back to the Georgia Gang. I'm Phil Kent, sitting in for Dick Williams. A lot has been going on the political front. I don't know if we can squeeze it all in, but I did see the news just this past week where the Reverend Raphael Warnock of Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church had been contemplating for months about running for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate seat that, of course, is currently held by Senator Johnny Isakson, who should have no problem getting the GOP senatorial nomination. And, of course, he's moving on to the general election next year. The Democratic Party, it's a pretty sad situation. They can't find or recruit anyone to run for the U.S. Senate. I thought the party was better than this. Alexis, what's going on?
Well, I think they thought they had their best chance when the seat was open last year when Saxby Chambliss decided not to seek re-election. Johnny Isakson has a reputation of being a bipartisan politician in the state and a conservative one here at home, and he's just almost unbeatable, I think. And so why waste your resources on going against him?
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, he's very popular among, all voters. He really is, and he always has been. Probably if you were to take a poll in Georgia, Johnny Isakson's name would come at the very top of that list. And so, why?
So the Democratic Party shouldn't put anyone up?
Well, I think they probably will put a candidate up to raise issues, but I don't think they would have any expectation that they would beat Johnny Isakson.
It would seem to be a waste of resources.
Sort of like John Lewis, I mean, I think Johnny Isakson is going to be in office as long as he chooses.
Right.
Meagan, what do you think?
I agree. I think it would be a waste of resources for the Democrats to put somebody up. I mean, yeah, maybe they get a talking head, but Johnny Isakson is extremely popular. He's done a great job of representing this state and knows how to move the ball forward, which is essentially what you were saying.
And has done so for folks on both sides of the aisle.
Well, I agree he's a very popular politician, but do you think he will get any competition in a Republican primary next year?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't heard of any names being tossed around. I don't know about you.
I haven't heard any either.
He's drawn a libertarian challenger.
I did see Alan Buckley is going to challenge him by the Libertarian Party. What did they get, 2% last November?
Right.
Anyhow.
And there is always a possibility of some Tea Party challenge, somebody who is so conservative that they think
You're right,
Johnny
but
Isakson
like
is too
Meagan
liberal.
says, we haven't heard anything. But let me shift gears to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., though. There's been a lot of excitement. I know that the Democrats are sitting back and eating popcorn and watching this movie, but the U.S. House of Representatives GOP caucus fractured. We had Kevin McCarthy, we thought was going to be the new speaker, and then he surprised everyone by pulling out last week. And then it's a free-for-all. And of course, we all are looking at some Georgians here. We're looking at Georgia Representative Tom Price. He had wanted to run, of course, for majority leader. And I'll set the stage so everybody can comment on this. And then, surprise, surprise, I think we saw Thursday night that Lynn Westmoreland, another congressman from Georgia, called in and said, well, I'd be willing to run. The magic number is 218. in the House of Representatives. But Meagan, what are you hearing?
I've heard so many names, it's not even funny. I mean, we have Congressman, of course, Westmoreland, Congressman Webster, Congressman Chaffetz, just to name a few. Paul Ryan, of course, yes, for Speaker.
Right.
Now, the most tragic thing for Georgia, I think, is the fact that McCarthy is not moving up, which means the position is not open for Congressman Price anymore.
That's right.
I would support him if he chose to move forward, but obviously not as majority leader right now. I know that Congressman Paul Ryan is considering it, but very, very reluctant. Understandably, as he's trying to work across the aisle to remove, to promote tax reform. So,
Jeff, what do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a great deal of disarray there in the Republican conference, and I don't think that it bodes well for the party. Particularly, you got a presidential election coming around. You've got an awful lot of Republican candidates in that race, and there are a lot of independent voters out there. There are a lot of voters in the middle who are watching both sides, and everybody's got their issues. You've got your old school candidates on the left with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and this hodgepodge on the right that shows a lack of consensus. And then you got people like Peter King coming out from New York saying, and he's in the conference saying that it's like a banana republic. It's total confusion.
Well,
I just don't think that bodes well for if you're an independent voter and you're watching all of this. This is not what you want to see.
Well, I don't fully agree with it. It bodes well. The Republican Party is a center-right party. I mean, you do have to win elections if you're a Republican with the center. The Democratic Party has moved so far to the left; they're having problems with independents. So you're neglecting that part of the equation.
I just think
they may be having problems, but they did pretty well the last two elections.
Wait a minute. Last November, you were wiped
The
out.
national election, I'm talking about for president, and that's what we're talking about here, is where the impact is happening.
67% of the American people believe the country's going in the wrong direction. That is not good for a Democratic candidate.
I think if you want to govern America, you should be able to govern yourselves. You should be able to govern your own conference and your own party, and they need to be able to demonstrate that they can. If they could get behind a consensus candidate like Paul Ryan, if he'd step up, I think that they'd be in much better shape.
And there's no indication that he's ready to do that. The other thing that some of the wilder reports are that they want to call Newt Gingrich back into service. And according to House rules, he can actually do that. You don't have to be a member of the Congress in order to be the Speaker
Isn't
of the
that
House,
amazing?
which is amazing.
And here, this is a person that's third in line to the presidency.
I love that we have 3 Georgians that people are talking about.
That's right.
Yeah.
It shows
That's
our
kinda
bench
cool.
is strong.
Yes.
A good point. Well, when we come back, it's time for winners and losers. So stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Welcome back to the Georgia Gang. I'm Phil Kent, sitting in for Dick Williams. Jeff, start us off with winners and losers.
Well, thank you very much. Jim Galloway of the AJC reports in this morning's paper that Stone Mountain Park is proposing to put a freedom bell atop the mountain on the mountain summit in honor of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech in which he said, "Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia." So Stone Mountain Park, of course, is my winner for taking that huge initiative and making the park inclusive for everyone. And the loser has got to be Jared Roth, who posted a Facebook picture of a young Caden Jace, 3 years old, lost his job in the process, which shows that if you want to be a tabletop racist, it's best not to have your laptop, because you might not be able to keep a job. So for going forward, a potential employer Googles his name, and all of this information is going to be there.
Well, you're right. And just to make a quick comment, I think we all agree, I don't care who you are. If you're a teacher holding a bottle of beer, don't put your picture on Facebook. If you're just an idiot spouting off, you spout off in private. So a good point. Meagan, do you have some winners and losers?
I'm keeping it positive this week and have 2 winners. First is all the participants and promoters of the Georgia Pre-K Week. I know there was a lot of volunteers, a lot of legislators and elected officials who participated in reading to our children, which is very important. And also to our governor, who has been taking the lead on criminal justice reform and also improving government efficiency by consolidating some agencies at the same time. So as a Republican, I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Alexis.
All right, and first I want to say happy birthday to the Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry. He celebrated his 94th birthday this week and was hosted by Delta Airlines at the Flight Museum with a big party gala that raised money for the Lowry Institute at Clark Atlanta. And congratulations to him. And then I want to salute Sidmel Estes. She passed this week. She was here at Fox 5 Atlanta and one of the co-creators of Good Day Atlanta, which became a model for Fox affiliates all across the country. And she was also the first woman to be president of the National Association of Black Journalists and was a huge champion for journalists and for diversity in journalism. She'll be
Right,
missed.
no, that's a good winner. I want to give a plug to a local author, our own Fox 5 analyst, Matt Towery. He's coming out with a new book. It's called News Vesting, and it's how you use news and opinion and polling and help with your finances, whether you're in the stock market or out. Go to newsvesting.com and help. My losers, unfortunately, my Bulldogs, Alabama was the winner
Ouch.
there. That was an ouch. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.